Good evening, Tushar, and welcome to Medicine Man. It's been great connecting with you and knowing about the book that you have written for the development of medical reps. So, before we go into the book, tell us something about your pharma experience and how has the pharma industry changed over the years?
Yeah, good evening, Anupji, and thank you very much for getting connected with me and giving me this opportunity to interact with you. Uh, I have been associated with pharmaceutical industry since last more than 3.5 decades. I started my career in 1986 as a medical representative in the organization like UFIC, and then I kept on growing year after year at the level of product executive, product manager, senior PM, and all hierarchy in marketings, and then assumed the role of P&L responsibilities with major multinationals and Indian MNCs since last more than 17 years. Secondly, when we look at the pharma industry, right from acute, the way I introduce in one sentence myself in terms of what I have managed the therapy areas in pharmaceutical, I have never remained hard. Otherwise, I have traveled across the entire physiology, right from head to toe. When we talk about industry, when I became part of this pharma industry in 1986, when we look at the industry, the 80% of the industry was dominated by multinational companies. And the handful of Indian companies which I can recall, that was Sarabhai at that point of time, organization like Alembic, organization like Cipla, and later on the organization post-90s like DRL, Torrent, Zydus, or Cadila Pharma at that point of time have come in existence with the strong growth and the journey. At that point of time, the medical representative was as important as it is today, but job of medical representative was considered to be the most respectable job and a white collar job. There were times where doctors used to wait for a medical representative to visit them. I remember when I was a medical representative, few consultants in South Bombay, if I am delayed by 1 or 2 days, they used to tell me that, Tushar, this time you are 2 days late than your last visit. But today, the entire scenario has totally changed, because whether it was general practitioner or a specialty doctors at that point of time used to see on an average GP 15 maximum medical rep, and a consultant used to see only 4 or 5 or perhaps 6 medical reps. Now today it is countless, whether you talk about general practitioner or every specialty of the doctors. Now, when I look at the change paradigm shift in the pharmaceutical industry, the scenario of MNC and Indian companies exactly reverse. Today, more than 80% of the top 10 companies are Indian companies, and multinationals are very few to count on. Number one. Number two, at that point of time, new products used to come in the market at a very, very slow pace. Only few multinational used to introduce research molecules. It is plenty because all Indian pharmaceutical organizations are encouraged. So there is a paradigm shift from that point of time, from 90s to today. From reverse engineering, we have moved to new chemical entities, biological products, vaccines, and many new products. So today, the new product contribution in any growth of pharmaceutical companies is quite substantial. That's what I can say. There is a paradigm shift. India has registered a slot globally in terms of API, generics, vaccines, and as well as it has become a significant player in top 3 in terms of volumes.
Great. That's wonderful listening to you, how the industry has changed. Indeed, you're right. In the 80s, it was dominated by the MNCs. And as you mentioned, some companies like Sarabhai, which are not in existence anymore. They were great companies when I was in the field in the 80s, like Ron Pauling, Main Baker, Boots, and Burroughs Wellcome, which have all been absorbed and amalgamated through mergers and acquisition into various MNC entities. Also, the medical rep was considered as a rare job opportunity, and it was a prized job opportunity. And doctors used to look forward to visit them because the numbers were few. Now we have more than 60,000 formulations, 3,000 companies, everybody
Yeah,
trying to find a
correct.
foot in the door just to say 30 seconds hi and bye to the doctor. So
Yes.
that's absolutely an accurate description of how the Indian pharmaceutical industry has changed over the year. So coming to the next question is that about the quality of the reps. Till the 90s, there was a lot of emphasis on training the medical reps. I remember that my training was for 28 days, and it was not an 8 hour session,
Yeah.
it was a 12-hour session. And even in the middle of the night, the managers would knock on the door to take questions from us. And now, if you look at it, it has been diluted a lot, and
Hmm.
therefore your book is very timely. It's a great effort and a boon to companies who don't have time to develop their own rep development materials. So tell us
Absolutely.
briefly about what your book is all about.
See, first of all, I will spend just a little time, very little time on training, because as you have rightly said, that at that point of time, Anupji, it was not only the training which was there for minimum a month, that is the classroom training, extensive classroom training, followed by hand holding on the field by seniors and managers. So it was totally 37 to 40 days program, which is now as crash course of 5 days, because all the companies are in hurry and worry to run behind their market share and numbers. However, in Made Baker, as you rightly said, I was also trained for more than a month. Even Hindustan Sibagagi at that point, which is now Novartis, used to train people for more than 35 to 45 days. So that has come down significantly. When it comes to my book, first of all, 1986, when I was perhaps enjoying my last vacation of my academics after my BSc final exam, the door was knocked by my cousin brother, who was a medical representative in Ranbaxy. And he entered in my house and he told me that, oh, enjoying last vacation, what is next? What you are going to do after your results? That, please trust me, he brought me on a cold feet. I had no clue that after my result will be announced what I'll be doing. And then he told me as a ready guide that you are smart, your communication is good, you are go-getter, perhaps you will be a very successful pharma professional, what I'm today. But many graduates today, thousands of people are graduating every year in spite of so much exposure today, which we did not have. They do not know where to go about it. I had my cousin brother who came as my ready guide. So I thought, spending 35 years with the pharmaceutical industry, I felt immense gratitude towards my career, which pharmaceuticals industry has given me. So I thought to reciprocate something in my book. So I have penned down each and every perspective for fresher as well as for young medical representative. The book is also mentioned about the step-by-step sales hierarchy which they can achieve, brand management hierarchy they can achieve, and finally they can achieve the P&L roles and responsibility. I have actually, characterized my journey and real life evidence as a comprehensive compendium in my book. And that's why I gave the title Medical Representative, an indispensable medium for the pharmaceutical industry. Because 60% of the organization resources even today are spent on medical representative.
Great. So that's wonderful to hear from you about the comprehensive content that you have created, so that companies that do not have time, like they had in our days, can now at least give some resource that helps the rep to understand what his role is all about. So, what according to you makes an effective medical rep?
Yes, Anupji, the basically representative, we used to get 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and even the doctors with the good repo used to give us a lot of time offering tea and cold drinks. But nowadays, the total time which medical representatives are getting in clinic is somewhere minimum 1 minute to maximum 3 minutes. And they have to articulate their detailing in overall perspective in order to get the message through, which is a very challenging task. For that, they have to follow the principle of 3S. The first, they have to be smart. The second, they have to be sensible. And the third thing, they have to be sincere. Why they have to be smart? Before they entered into a doctor's chamber, they should be fully prepared about what are going to be the engagements and association they can have with any particular doctor in terms of their advice, in terms of their feedback, in terms of their knowledge, everything. That is number one. Second thing, the most important perspective, they should acknowledge the patronage of a doctor by thanking them that thank you doctor for prescribing my this product and all. I have noticed in many medical representative, sir, I need minimum 5 prescriptions of this brand from you in this month and this week. Now, this doesn't convince a doctor, rather it irritates the doctor. So they need to be very smart. Second thing, manners, etiquette and good behavior is not only appreciated, but it is always welcomed by the doctor. I have dedicated one complete chapter in my book on manners and etiquettes and behavior to be demonstrated by medical representatives to be effective. Second thing, sensible. They should forehand know about the competitor's product, engagement level, what doctor have query raised last time when they made them. All these things needs to be articulately provided to the doctors. Number three, they have to be sincere. Time have changed where we used to manage patients indirectly. Now, in the growing awareness and the lifestyle disease changes like diabetes, cardiology, rheumatology, cancer, all this therapy area needs to be attended to. And the patients needs to be attended apart from the doctors because patient needs information on a product, patient needs demonstration of the product, patient wants to understand the dosage schedule, patient has to be reminded and patient has to be supplied medicine on time because 2 days prior to their completion of previous dose, they have to remind either through toll-free numbers, through counselors in the company, medical reps and managers by. So today, if medical representative has to be effective, they have to keep this 3S principle in mind. More importantly, they have not only to be a customer-centric, but they have to be highly patient-centric.
Excellent. That's very well articulated. Though you have mentioned only 3 words, they are full of substance. One has to be smart, one has to be sensible, and one has to be sensitive. And not only focusing on the doctors, but on the patient journey as well, and therefore becoming truly patient-centric. And the pharma companies need to understand the lifetime value of a patient. As you rightly said, that when he completes his dose, he needs to be reminded 3 days earlier to replenish his stock of drugs. And therefore, this is how pharma companies can not only build relationship with the doctors and the patients who adhere to their treatment regimen, but also enhance their business prospects. So nice to hear that you have brought in this patient-centric aspect to the role of a medical rep. So in the current scenario, as you rightly said, everything has changed. It's no longer welcoming, the doctors are no longer welcoming the rep. He has to somehow find it a little bit of time in the busy doctor's schedule and do whatever he has to do in anywhere from 30 seconds to 3 minutes. So given this background, how do you think the pharma companies should change training their field force?
First of all, when it comes to the training, to me, training is not the only training which has been imparted to the medical reps or a salespeople, those who join the organization, what we call as an induction training. Training is a continuous process and time to time intervention is required because there are various perspectives of training. It is a behavioral training, it's a skill training, it's a presentation skill and communication training, it's a teamwork training. And last but not the most important, today, many pharmaceutical companies have implemented. In our time, there was the 3 copies of reporting, daily reporting. One used to go to your immediate manager, second used to go to your office, and third used to go to your zonal manager. Things have changed. Now it is e-reporting. So today, if you want to be successful field, you have to be online round the clock. So it is very important that people are trained in handling the social media, handling the devices, detailing on the iPad, as well as they should be tuned to online reporting. Not only that, they have to be provided the web training. Gone are the days when doctors had a patient to wait for your scientific inputs and the information. They themselves can download the articles, latest abstracts, and the rest of the information can be given to the doctors maybe during 2 3 days time or 4 days time when you get input from a medical department. So training, last but not the least, whenever I have trained my field force, I have always trained, apart from all this perspective, I have trained them through key opinion leaders, the dermatologists, oncologists, rheumatologists, pediatric endocrinologists. So they get a clear idea what are the expectations of us as well as the patient from a pharmaceutical company.
I think you have articulated very well the need for pharma companies to pivot and train their reps in adapting to the changed reality of the digital world. And the pharma rep now should be able to use social media. He should be able to use digital tools. He should remain relevant by understanding what the doctor's real information needs are, instead of giving a canned talk or a parroted talk like they used to before. Doctors now want current information that is relevant to treating their patients in the most effective way. So finally, Tushar, I want to know what are some steps that Indian pharma industry needs to take to attract better talent at the entry level? Because as you know, as you rightly said, in the 80s, because of the MNCs, there was a great desire among young people who were science graduates to enter the pharmaceutical industry. That is no longer the case. So pharma has a challenge, and if there is an entry level talent crunch, and that affects all the other future positions as well, frontline managers, second line managers, the quality declines. So pharma needs to completely change their approach, and I would really look forward to your thoughts on how can they attract better talent.
See, first of all, nowadays I have seen that there are very few pharmaceutical companies have taken pain to create an awareness about the beauty of pharmaceutical industry, and at every level there is a growth opportunity and potential which exists to make your career in the pharmaceutical industry to the youngsters. Number one. Number two, I have very rarely seen, though there are campus interviews, HR is visiting various management institute to hire a talent because it is very, very important. But overall, science graduate colleges where graduation level, there are no efforts made by the pharmaceutical companies. What is more required today? That you visit the best colleges in the metro and semi-metro cities where the people are passing out their science graduation, that is BSc, which is required to be part of pharma industry. Pharmacy colleges, because any BPharm graduates which comes out, if they take R&D route, it's a separate issue. If they take regulatory route, it's a separate issue. But if they want to pursue their MBA and come into the brand management, the bare minimum mandate, they have to work on the field for 2 years. So attracting a talent, pharmaceutical HR must ensure that enough awareness is created at the science graduate level colleges as well as the pharmacy colleges and management institute. Number one. Number two, any organization, say for example, has 1,000 field force. If the attrition considered is 15 to 20%, Anupji, it is virtually impossible for HR to spot 150 to 200 medical reps for any pharmaceutical company. What is more required, that field manager, regional manager, and even a medical rep needs to be incentivized to spot the talent, like-minded talent, which suits for the organization culture. They should be rewarded that if you bring this candidate on your own, you will be rewarded. If they stay with the organization for 6 months, you will get this. If they stay for 1 year, you will get this. And whichever company I have worked for, I am not preaching. but I have visited science colleges, I have visited the management institute, I have visited pharmacy colleges, and I pushed HR to best of my capabilities that go and hunt talent here. Many times manager says, I want experienced guy only to take forward my business. Manager also should put enough efforts, because if you call young talent fresher, their sustainability to retain them is much longer than hiring the ready-made talent from the industry. Perhaps they may not stay there for a long time because their aspiration levels are different. Their expectations and monetary gains expectations are different. So you cannot keep them for a very, very long time unless and until you intervene time to time and ensure them the career. So that's what I can say, that these efforts have to be made by pharmaceutical industry in order to attract young talents, freshers, and motivate the existing medical reps to achieve greater heights.
Great. Those were wonderful perspectives, and I'm sure that huge learning from this just over 20 minutes interaction with you, where you have brought in a wealth of insight. And I really like the final answer that you have given, that the managers should be responsible not only for sales, but for getting the right sales people and training them. And this process should be incentivized. It's not just incentivizing the target hitting process, but the incentivizing the process of identifying and attracting people with the sales capability. And that's a definite skill that you require in today's time. And so HR has to evolve a lot. And I trust that your book, as well as this interview with you, will give the insights to the pharma professionals as to what they should be doing going forward to create a better field force that is digitally savvy, that is technically savvy, and most importantly, that is sensitive to the needs of the not just the doctors, but also to the patients and the challenges that they experience. As rightly you said, the NCDs have increased, and there's a concern among the patients. What happens if I take this anti-diabetic drug for 5 years, for 10 years? What are the side effects? And as a result, many of them move towards the so-called Ayurvedic and homeopathic treatment, which talk about their no side effect profile. So this is very important. Science still has a very important role in not only educating their doctors, but more importantly, educating patients that modern medicine has its definite place in the treatment of diseases today. And it is probably the most beneficial treatment that a person can get. So thank you very much, Tushar, for taking this time out, and most importantly for writing this book that I hope many companies will be interested in looking at and using it as a resource to develop their field force.
Thanks to you for taking out your valuable time and giving me this opportunity to interact with you.
Thank you very much, and have a great evening.